Earth debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, click OK, Adam, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
Morning.
Good morning. Hello, Discord, you enthusiastic bunch.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning. Are you all excited? We're creeping ever closer to the book release, and I know it's my book, and therefore obviously I'm going to be excited about it, but I can't think of something that I've done in the 10 years of doing flat earthing that people have asked me about so much. You know, there's not a single day that goes by that someone asks me, is the book out yet? Is it out yet? How long till the book's out? You know, I get asked multiple times a day, and it just fills me with such joy, because the anticipation is going to be worthwhile. You know, when it finally gets released, people will be like, yeah, this was worth the wait. This is fantastic. I do want to buy this for my friend, family member, co-worker that's been annoyingly, let's say, detrimental to my mental health when they talk about this subject. Let's just keep it as friendly as we possibly can when we talk about our friends and loved ones and co-workers when it comes to flat earthing. So, yeah, it's going to be worthwhile. But are you all excited for its release?
I'm real excited, although I've heard some pre-reviews that it's the worst book ever.
It's not out yet. You've had some pre-reviews, like before it's written.
Oh yes, it's the worst book ever. I think in the next couple of months it's just going to be a massive. Don't read it. Don't say 90.
Don't say 90. Well, I'm extremely excited, and you know, time's ticking on by. There's going to be more and more people looking at as we get closer to the actual publication date, which will get set in the very near future. One more time that we're going to have a full read through with various different eyes on it. It goes off to the publicist, who does exactly the same thing. He has his read through. Then that's it. It's published. It's really, really close. I can't wait. Probably, I reckon, end of summer it's going to be published. Then it's there. It was formerly called Housekeeping. Then it was called All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth. Now it's called Welcome to Flat Earth. So it's had various different titles, and it's had more rewrites and redrafts than perhaps the number of titles that it's had. You know, I think I suggested this was the fourth rewrite. Well, it's probably more than that. But nevertheless, it's had a lot of work, which is good. You know, it's had a lot of attention, which is also good. The references and citations are outstanding. The quality is like high, not only high, but heavily scrutinized in terms of what is and isn't appropriate to be cited, to be discussed in the first place. Like, it's all been scrutinized. Huge chunks of work have been dumped. Huge chunks of work have been refined. So it's, like I say, it's still for the time being, it's a work in progress. There's still little bits to be done. There'll be things that are altered moving forward. I think we're on chapter 11 of 14 currently. So we're very close to the end in terms of the fourth draft. And yeah, there might be call for suggesting that it's a fifth draft, but I don't think so. I think the fourth draft will be gone over with a fine-tooth comb again, in full, and that will be what goes off to the publicist. So yeah, it's really, really close for everybody asking, which is many, many, many people. It's like, I can't believe how many people are going to be there waiting for it to come out and immediately purchasing it. There'll be a massive spike in terms of its immediate sales from people who are waiting with bated breath to get hold of it. So yeah, but there's obviously stuff to do. There's going to be a translation into Spanish at the minimum when it comes out. Hopefully that'll be done as well. I want that all done at the same time, so it's at least released in some form bilingually and with an audio version, all at the same time. So it's hopefully going to be, recognised that if we've spent this much time, it can be pondered upon a little longer in terms of getting the translated versions together. Not necessarily the Spanish audiobook version, but what I'm getting at. It'll be released with a aplomb. It'll be released with multiple versions, as it should be. I want it to be a big event. I want it to be a big deal when it finally drops. It's worthy of that. There's enough people waiting in high anticipation of it that it should have a bit of fanfare when it finally drops. Would you not agree? Yes, no.
Yeah, I think
Yes, Nathan, we all agree.
Jolly good. I'll get the party poppers then. You get the sangria.
I'm trying to get our translator in. You're going to have to invite him in, Nathan. I don't know how to do it. It's MW.
He's in there now. We'll figure it out with him. He's a regular.
So he's not in, he's not getting a link to join.
Yeah, we'll figure it out in the next couple of days before the next book editing session, which is on Monday. We'll get. I'm going to keep ballsing up his name. Ventriloquorum. If I can say it right. We'll get it in. We'll get you in. Don't worry.
Roger.
Nathan. Affirmative. Indeedy.
Nathan Rogers.
No. So we're coming up to the end of the week. Thursday's the new Friday, as they say. Did we want to do a bit of housekeeping? Is there any videos to cover? Is this going to be an idle chit-chat for an hour? What is
Let's
to
do
follow?
some
I have
housekeeping.
no idea.
We haven't done housekeeping in days.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
But it is Earth curve.
What's Earth curve?
The horizon. I told you the other day, Nathan. Boats go over the horizon.
No, boats go over an orthographic view marked with an X labelled horizon, and it's a drop from surface level calculable with a parallel eye level. Ergo, Earth must be measured flat and retain its flatness for a parallel eye level to be parallel to derive orthographic mathematics that suggests that the distance to the geometric horizon is 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's Earth curve mass that you're inferring. It requires Earth to be measured flat. Like all Earth measurements, always even Earth curve measurements, they're not, they're calculations. The measurements are of a flat Earth, surface level, height off surface level, and sea level, all incorporated into Earth curve maths. You need a flat plane of reference. A sphere that's inferred in orthographic view will not give you one, but the Earth that is measured for your height above it and your parallel eye level will. You're measuring it flat. Earth, that is. It's flat. Earth, that is. That's how you measure it. Even if you
I don't care what you say, Nathan. When I go higher, if I increase the elevation, I could see that boat.
Okay.
Okay.
So the measurement is your elevation then. So your elevation is a height above surface level, sea level, if you want to measure it with reference to the horizontal plane that ties to Earth. So you're measuring your height off sea level. That's a horizontal plane of reference perpendicular to it in a vertical orientation, measured in feet. That's a flat Earth measurement, Neil. Your height. Elevation.
So you mean to tell me I can't be on one point on a sphere and go up, let's say, 1,000 feet? And that's not off a level surface. That's off of a sphere.
No, perpendicular, 90 degrees. Up, you say. You're going to have some axiomatic principle to describe this, and it won't be afforded to you if you are begging the question of being on a spherical surface. There is no perpendicular. There's nothing horizontal about a sphere to be perpendicular to 90 degrees. Yeah? A single
Well, if
point
I
won't
go
give
to
you
the
that.
center of that,
Not in the centre of a ball. I mean, mathematically, that's where the systems that are in place to describe the angle measurements off a flat Earth to the stars can be represented from within a ball, like the globe that's projected out from the surface we measure flat with these angles to stars is a glorified projector. Now, some people think that they're standing on the surface of this globe Earth. I'm accurately describing as a glorified protractor, with you standing on a flat plane with the globe wrapped around you, because that is the equatorial plane that is utilised to describe the mathematical derivation that creates the ball for people to fantasize about standing on it. But we're not standing in it, and that's how the angle measurements that we utilise for navigation and mapping work. Heliocentrism as an offshoot comes from these flat Earth measurements. Make no mistake, Earth is measured flat.
Hey guys.
One deck. Hello.
Yeah, you're all right.
Very well.
The other thing is, like, a lot of these this heliocentric nonsense. A lot of them use talking about the horizon. It's an observation, the horizon, and the horizon has never ever been defined as a physical location set for in the heliocentric model. It's just it's an apparent location which can alter, and there's proof out there on the table, Black Swan 2020, that the horizon that they claim is a physical edge of the globe is at a certain distance, 1.22 times the observer's height in feet. But there's video and photographic evidence which shows the horizon beyond that distance, which debunks their, globe heliocentric model to bits. It's been proven. So it's not a physical location. It does move around depending on conditions. And we've got photographic and video evidence to show them this. It's over.
Yeah, so what one deck is alluding to is the argument known as the Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to the horizon measured could be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as laid down in the Begging the Question, Proof of Nothing, Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve Maths in Orthographic View. Distance to the horizon measured in the Black Swan is beyond the oil rigs at 10 miles, rather than 1.2 miles at a 1 foot observer height. Ergo, it's not a physical geometric mark with an X labelled horizon, orthographic representation of a geometric sphere edge blocking your view of boats and buildings, as laid down in the Begging the Question, Proof of Nothing Perspective, Hijacking Earth Curve Mathematics, because it's beyond those geometric limitations, as demonstrated in the image fondly known as the Black Swan. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not physical. Refraction, you hear them cry. Yes, so not a physical measurable sphere edge horizon then, you complete numpties. Now, given that it's been 5 years, the idiots that undo their own geometric assertions of a sphere edge for a horizon by barking refraction at us 5 years after their own annihilation with their own words of refraction, beggars belief, in my humble opinion. The level of stupidity on our anti-flat Earth opponent's side is literally off the scale. Stupid levels that you can't really comprehend even if they're explained to you. Okay, so while you bash your own heads in with the fact we don't have a geometric sphere edge for a horizon, so not Earth curve then, not blocking boats with its physical nature, refracted by your own standards, not capable of measurement for a geometry at all then, never to be measured, you idiots. Meanwhile, and I reverse time to when I should have interjected but didn't want to be rude to one deck, when he asserted this in the first instance, because as one deck pointed out, 1.22 times the square root of the observer's measured height off a flat Earth. The first measurement in this series of nonsensical orthographic-based mathematics that suggests we have an Earth curve below the surface level we will measure for our height. At which point there is no argument or inference that we can violate the base principle measurement we are measuring for our height. And should you suggest that that point we measure from is a tolerable single point with respect to a curve, you won't have a parallel eye level to move forward with your begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve maths, debunked by the black swan in physical terms. Not that it was required, Earth was being measured flat the whole time, to have this stupid inference of Earth curve below the surface level we're measuring. It's utterly absurd, and in 2025 we have no need to debunk the inference, after measuring Earth flat, that we've got a physical geometric horizon. What's that? Refracted? Well, where's your maths for a refracted, non-geometric, non-physical, not blocking boats and buildings horizon? Oh, well, that will also come with a heavy dose of measuring Earth flat with linear miles and heights off surface levels and parallel eye levels for a geometry that requires Earth be measured flat in all instances and without exception. So we're a bit beyond the black swan, but thank you for bringing it up, One Deck. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, you're going to need a globe for that. And then when you look at the Earth calculator and how the globe was measured, it's telling you it's a flat Earth elevation angle measurement. So we haven't got a globe for any axial rotation anyway, because we haven't got a globe.
Yeah, it's not actually correct there.
There's no evidence of a globe.
Axial rotation requires a plane of reference to describe it. The axis would go through the centre, but the plane would be the reference plane used. When they describe inertial and non-inertial planes of reference in terms of its rotational values for not actual deflection in Coriolis effect, those are flat. An axis of rotation requires a flat plane to describe the rotation itself. So you said it needed a globe? That's incorrect. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
I mean, that's just like saying, can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
Is there any
gas law
you can
requires containment?
Say again, sorry, Adam.
I said all gas law requires containment.
What, like the V in PV equals nRT? The volume
V
of the container.
Yeah, the gas particle has to press up on the wall of the container to obtain pressure. If there was no container, the gas particle would just keep wandering about until it finally hit the container to generate some pressure. So you do need a container. It's gas law, and that's, it's a law of nature.
Shout out to Meme Cannon. Says, keep smacking these fools. Hopefully you're doing well. I am doing well. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Meme Cannon. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline, One Deck?
No, I think it's a bit of an antecedent situation like gas pressure, because you will require a horizontal baseline for the elevation angle. They go hand in hand. So it's a stupid question, really.
Yeah, in the pre-show we were talking about 6 months ago when, I was privileged enough, pausing to carefully phrase this, I was privileged enough to receive a phone call from a man in real time measuring flat Earth elevation angles to an Antarctic sun for a 24-hour period. Now, obviously, it was quite painful as a non-flat Earth believer to have it pointed out that your measurements are all utilising a flat plane of reference for angles. So therefore, it was the case that a deflection to the guns that recently escorted a man who landed in Antarctica away, and given that he didn't have the documents, that made headline news. The Chilean government escorting him off Antarctica at gunpoint. Nevertheless, Earth got measured flat regardless of me not chasing that straw man red herring down for 6 months, because it's non sequitur to the way that we actually measure Earth flat, with elevation angle measurements to the sun for 24 hours as a single example. There are many more. Now, that might be painful to hear if you thought that the Antarctic expedition was in any way affirming a ball by debunking an azimuthal equidistant North Pole-centric globe projection and juxtaposing it with a globe model that's non-existent and never presented, when utilising claimed to be experiments actually flat Earth elevation angle measurements.
Some globers and anti-flat earthers, when this is this evidence is put to them, will admit, we know it requires a flat horizontal baseline, but if you're doing it locally, you can just use a small area of flatness to measure an elevation angle.
Yeah, we can measure a small area of Earth flat. You can measure no area of Earth a ball because it isn't one, but we do measure Earth flat. How lovely that they can minimise it. We could expand out these measurements and point out to them that you've got 5,400 nautical mile measurements capable if you're using a celestial navigation measurement methodology and an angle to a star at its minimum. But why bother? Locally flat, you say? So we are, you agree, measuring Earth flat. Locally, I don't care what you call local. We're measuring Earth flat. And them telling us that it's just locally measured flat, yeah, you drop the mitigation word, the just, and focus on the measured flat bit. Again, the mitigation word of locally. What's that mean? Well, it's not really relevant. We're measuring Earth flat and they all know it. Are you in two places, Mark? In Discord and G+ at the same time, Mark. Hopefully we don't get a load of echo from you.
What's in?
Let's carry on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Don't all go at once.
What would be the purpose of knowing the distance to the sun? Practical terms, anyway.
Did anybody catch that?
No.
What would be the purpose of learning or knowing, measuring the distance to the sun in the first place? What practical purpose would it be?
Good question. I don't know. I don't have one. I can't think of a practical application for it. There is obviously practical applications for the distance to the GP of the sun at any given time, and we have note of these and have had for some time. It's useful, very useful for navigation. But in terms of the distance to the sun itself, as asserted in heliocentric cosmology and assertions by Huygens and Kepler and various other characters in the journey of heliocentric beginnings, there isn't really one. I can't think of any of them. Any purpose? Anybody know what use the distance to the sun would be, even if we had it accurately measured, which we do not?
No, it's pointless, really, even to think about that, especially when you're talking about the shape of the Earth, because the sun in the sky has got nothing to do with the shape of the Earth, even though a group of people thought it did when they went to, apparently, Antarctica to measure elevation angles from a flat baseline to that light in the sky for 24 hours. Oh, no. It's got nothing to do with actual Earth measurement. But you can use the light in the sky to obtain an elevation angle to pinpoint your position on Earth when navigating, trying to find your position. So it can be useful, but the distance to it has no resemblance to anything.
Exactly. GP distance, very handy. Go ahead, Surf Daddy.
One of the counter arguments is typically, well, if the Earth is flat, then you should be able to find the distance
Yeah, I got you. Non sequitur. Me being able to give a distance to the sun because they assert that it's 93 million miles away after scaling it with Venus, utilizing a flat Earth elevation angle to Polaris at its minimum for a radial value of an equator value that gets made to be spherical when measured flat and then imposed on Venus. So you can scale Kepler's heliocentric motion and give you a 93 million mile sun. That's their story for their sun that, like all measurements of Earth, originates with the flat Earth elevation angle measurement at Polaris and its minimum. So we've got flat Earth being measured to create a system that gives them their heliocentric distance to the sun. And then I'm asked whether or not I can measure it with an angle. No, I can't. The sun doesn't behave in a conducive manner for making those measurements. Does it change that we do measure it with angles to acquire GP distance? Yeah, we do. It's very useful for navigating. It's applied practically. Obviously, we need a flat Earth to do so, and we definitely do so. Therefore, Earth is flat as we do so. Measure it flat, that is. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, when you say scientific evidence, I think you'd want to be observing a natural occurring phenomena. So what would that be, would you say, for gravity?
They say 110 years ago that objects falling because of a force pulling stuff go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash. The Newtonian, old and busted gravitational force. Debunked by gas and its behaviour expanding in all directions, regardless of its claim to have mass, whatever that is, in their vernacular. Meanwhile, it doesn't attract to Earth, despite its vastly larger mass than all gas particles that are individual unbonded and moving in all directions without any attractive force whatsoever. Quite the contrary. Should a gas particle encounter a wall of a container or another gas particle or anything to collide with, it will have an elastic collision and opposite reaction in the other direction. Its vector will change, it will not be attracted. That's elastic collision as opposed to gravitational attraction, undermining the base premise of this force pulling things towards the ground. No, gas fundamentally debunks such a notion, as does the new hotness of a fourth-dimensional, pseudo-Riemannian bent space-time invented by a man named Einstein. Obviously, the conceptual realm of bent fourth-dimensional space-time, invented by a man named Einstein, has no bearing whatsoever on our physical encountering of three dimensions that are real, nor does it create any force, or is considered one by modern scientists, if you can call them such. I hope that's a summary good enough to explain that there is no natural phenomena to observe in a pseudo-Riemannian bent space-time or a non-existent downward force debunked by gas expansion.
Well, what falling is there on a sphere?
One more time.
Concept.
One more time.
There is no concept of falling on a sphere. Such concepts don't exist.
Well, there's inning. They have inning, don't they? Like the notion of moving towards the centre of a sphere Earth. Isn't that what they call the non-concept they can't use of falling perpendicular in a vertical orientation with respect to a plane, 90 degrees at the surface that you'll meet an impact if you are falling? Because they would have inning, wouldn't they?
But that's not falling.
And it's not used. I've never heard anybody say, well, on a ball, I'm inning. You know, I'm moving towards the centre of it.
On another note on that, well, just I was talking to someone. There's a few people. I was talking to a normal person, I'll call them, about this subject, and there's a lot of people under the. Well, for one, I was trying to explain that the gas we breathe, the gas particles are created at ground level. They're not being dragged down from a gas factory in the sky. And the person was having a bit of a hard time trying to understand that. And then I was talking about the gas pressure requiring containment, and they was under the impression that the atmosphere is the container. So I was trying to unravel all this for this person who's not into this subject, and they was really scratching their head and just couldn't come to terms with what I was saying, even though I was trying to explain it really carefully. I think you find that with a lot of normal Joes, I call them. They just, the atmosphere is the container. They can't, gas is gravity, Newtonian gravity, which has been outdated, is pulling gas down to the Earth when gas particles are created at ground level and going up. So where's the gravity then? Then it's non-existent. And the gravity is, what they call atmosphere is the gas pressure, not the container. So there's a bit of confusion with some people who are not really into the subjects of what is actually going on.
Yeah, pressure is the force exerted on the walls of the container for the gas to exert or exhibit gas pressure. It needs containment. Meanwhile, gas is not going down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash. If you don't believe us, just crick your head slightly and look up at the clouds. That's the effects of gas in the form of the water cycle. Moving up, away from the ground. Not down, not go boom, boom, not go splash, splash. There is no force of gravity. It's superseded 110 years ago by Einstein, as I explained earlier. Bent pseudo-Riemannian space-time is not the force of gravity, go down, go boom, boom, either. Gas isn't doing that. Look at a cloud. In order to have that effect in the first place, that is to say gas cycle, you would need gas to be at high pressure, and therefore you must have containment for that to be the case. If the sky was a vacuum, as is asserted in the heliocentric nonsensical world of taking flat earth measurements and making them ball-shaped, you'd have a 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum right next to the high pressure gas we're all breathing. It's not going down, go boom, boom. It's not being held here as atmosphere. That's an oxymoron. Atmo, that means air. Sphere, that's a shape. Gases take the shape of whatever containment they're in. They don't arbitrarily form spheres. They disperse into whatever available volume. Now, if the sky is a vacuum, it's a vast volume available to the gas at high pressure to fill. Ergo, we'd have never developed gas pressure if the sky was a vacuum. The very first gas particle would have come out of the ground, sodded off into sky vacuum, and never returned, because it would carry on in whatever vector it was travelling in until it collided with something. Now, if it never collides with the wall of a container to come back down to Earth to form pressure, then we never achieve gas pressure. But that's the world they want you to believe in when they take flat Earth measurements of angles and project them from a hell with a protractor wrapped around it called the globe that you can then reify into an existence where you're standing on a curved surface that you measure the stars with, and then suggest that there's a sky vacuum above your head 10 to the minus 17 torr with the orbital motion again derived from flat Earth measurements of the stars, of things like the ISS with men in tin cans flying like Superman. You can believe that religious worldview nonsense that's given to you by your government, derived from church rhetoric. That's where your government comes from. You can believe that if you want. Good for you. You know better than a Scientologist, because that's what they believe too. It's the same religion. They've got Xenu in a sky vacuum, and you don't. But other than that, it's the same religion. Now, you've also got Xenu. You just don't call him Xenu no more. Statistically, you've got little green men if you're a baller. What's the difference? Xenu, little green men, the likelihood of life out in the sky, where all the soil is. All the soil up there in the sky with all the men standing on the soil in the sky. The soil's on the ground. You bunch of lunatics, heliocentrists, bunch of lunatics, Scientologists. You've got the same exact system and worldview. You think the soil in the sky. You think the moon's a rock and that Mars could have vegetables growing on it. You think there's little green men. You're all part of the same stupid religion, derived from flat Earth measurements of angles to the stars.
How do you know there's not soil in the sky? Have you been there? With this can't have gas pressure without containment, when none of us have gone any further than a plane ride. Right?
Okay.
So things could be different in outer space.
The soil's on the ground, Neil.
Outer
I'm absolutely confident of my assertion that the soil is the ground and the sky is the lack of anything. Now, there is gas in the sky, and it's capable of moving around in that emptiness to fill it with the gas pressure that we're all breathing and have cyclical gas cycles like the sky vacuum voiding clouds that we can all see. So I can unequivocally suggest that that empty area does have stuff happening in it with gas, but it's not soil. Now, if you're telling me that a little twinkling light that's orange is soil, I don't believe you. That's your burden to prove. Now, I'm not saying it isn't. It seems ludicrous given that I know what soil is and it's on the ground. Based on relative density, I don't see how soil can be in the sky. It would fall from the sky to the ground based on its increased density versus the sky. But if you want to suggest that it is, that's your burden to prove. Meanwhile, I know the ground is definitely soil. And I know that Scientology say otherwise, and so does heliocentrism.
Not going to give me a chance, right? You're just going to keep saying with the same rhetoric. Putin's right. You're deflecting. Well, how do we know? All I'm saying is it is possible that things react differently the further you go up.
No.
Have any of us been there? Have any of us been higher than a plane?
I don't care. If you want to suggest that there's soil in the sky, you better damn well prove it. Now, I'm not saying there isn't. I'm not making any claims in that regard. I'm saying that by my experience, the soil's on the ground, not in the sky. That's it. That's my experience. Now, if you want to tell me otherwise, prove it. I'm not saying the sky isn't soil. To me, it seems utterly absurd to have a requirement to suggest that it isn't soil when the soil's beneath my feet. But because there's a religion that believes there's little green men in the sky called Xenu, unless you're not a Scientologist, I mean, you've got the same religion of a sky vacuum filled with rocks that you can grow soil on. Little orange ones called Mars, you think that's a soily based sky rock for growing stuff on and living on. Now, you can believe that, like the Scientologists believe the exact same thing. But it makes you all nuts in my mind, because the way you've come to that conclusion is by measuring Earth flat. The way you've come to the motion of these lights is by measuring Earth flat. And the way you apply it to any practical version of the sky or ground we use, well, that's flat. So definitely a spherical ground, us moving around the sun, like orbital motion and Copernicus systems in both Scientology and heliocentrism. They're the same system. Exactly the same. But that's just not the world we live in. It's just some stupid religion everyone's got.
Sorry, Nick, I was just going to say, with this is where the conversations go a lot of the time with the heliocentric nonsense of gravity, and even, well, not that it's even gas pressure. Gas pressure and the gas laws is a wonderful conversation, but again, that's got nothing to do with how Earth is measured. It's just gas behavior. And you can get into a conversation with somebody about gas pressure, and then you end up in the sky talking about planets and Mars and a load of nonsense. That's where it takes you. So these ideas in the heliocentric model, a lot of it takes you away from what we're actually going forward on the front foot. Is what we're saying now is, well, let's bring them back down to Earth, and how is it measured?
What is space? Let's do that.
Measured flat.
Space, length, breadth, and depth.
Is that curve?
A Cartesian system, no, it would be a square if you want to describe it as something. If you're like a box, I suppose you could describe it as. It's a system, it's conceptual. Length, breadth, and depth, right? For measuring stuff. No, that's not curved. That's
right.
Cartesian.
So height is Cartesian.
Yeah.
So how high the star appears in the sky is Cartesian. So you're going to develop space from Cartesian, and then you're going to ask me about soil in the sky. I can say indefinitely that's not soil up there.
I mean, you don't know that it isn't.
Yeah, I do.
That's what I've just had leveled at me. I completely agree. Where's the soil? Beneath my feet. Is it in the sky? No.
You haven't been there. You don't know. You
I've
can't
been in the
validate
sky.
it.
It's just the empty void filled with gas. So, I mean, yeah, I've spent plenty of time in the sky.
Does soil float?
No,
Neil?
no.
Listen, you ain't been in outer space. Things could be different up there.
Outer space is length, breadth, depth. That is related to planar measurements. So we're not going to go to outer space. We'll just stick with space. That's where we live. It's not soil, Neil.
Have you been on a star? Have you been? And people said they went to the moon. I mean, you can't
Have I
prove that they
been-
didn't.
Have I been to the moon?
That's what he asked you.
Why would I need to go to the moon to know it's not soil?
Because
Neil?
people went to the moon and they said they played golf. They got video of it. They did experiments up there, just like they did experiments in Antarctica.
How'd they get to the moon, Neil?
They took a rocket ship.
They took a rocket and went where?
Through the
They
wardrobe.
went to the moon.
Through
The
wardrobe.
amount of fuel that was purchased proves
Don't
that
say
they
up.
went to the moon.
How did they go to the moon, Neil? You've not answered that question. You said they went
They
to the
flew.
moon. They flew.
Yeah.
Did they go up, Neil?
They flew on DC-10s to visit the mighty Xenu with the souls of all of the Thetans. What's your problem?
They went up. You can go up directly from one point on a globe. You can go straight up.
No, you can't. It's out and in, Neil. It's not up.
I'm looking at a freaking orange right now. I got my finger on it. I'm going right up, straight up from one point. That's not in or out.
Exactly. It's exactly. So with respect to a horizontal planar reference, not a curve.
I'm going straight up from the curve. I'm going to get a bigger one. I'm going to do it on a cantaloupe. Okay, I'm doing it on a cantaloupe right now. I'm going straight up from one point.
Go up
From one point on top of the orange or cantaloupe?
From right on the tip of the freaking cantaloupe. Hold on. Let me get
On
a
the
bigger
top
one. Let
of
me
it?
get a melon.
Get you a beach ball, Neil. Are you going up or are you going out?
Point here is that to describe these orientations, if you're going to take a beach ball or a cantaloupe or a melon or whatever it is you're describing, to have an orientation capable of description perpendicular to the plane of reference, that's up, then you need to plonk this item into a grid or a system or a box, as I described it earlier, so you can describe its length, breadth and depth. Then within that already in existence system, you can then positionally describe with 3 axes where the top of that item is, based on where you've plonked it in the system, in the box. Now, without that system, you don't have a top on a cantaloupe. It's completely arbitrary. You don't have a system to reference where the up is coming from. When Neil says it's a single point, okay, well, you pick up your cantaloupe and then whatever your smallest finger's touching, that's going to be the point. Well, how do you orientate it? Well, you don't. You need your Cartesian system to orientate that single point with respect to a plane of reference, so then you can describe up perpendicular to it. Then you've got everything you need to describe this shape within this 3-dimensional system. But Neil wants to start with the 3-dimensional shape and no system, and suggests that we've got a point to describe an axiomatic principle that requires a horizontal plane of reference and 90 degrees to it, an orientation in the vertical, so we can go up from it, not just from a single point. It isn't that oversimplified if you're going to communicate this thing mathematically or indeed verbally to another person. Then you have to establish axiomatic principles to describe your single point with reference and respect to the plane. You'll always need the plane, Neil. You can't
There
get
you
away from
go.
it.
Thank you very much.
Now,
It's not
do we need to talk about gravity? Oh, it's not a plane.
Hold on. I heard Brian.
No, it's not.
Oh yeah, I know
Plane.
the sense got to jump in.
Now, it does say, don't you start with that. Don't
Yeah,
you
Brian.
start with that.
It says it's not a
Go
plane.
ahead, Brian.
What's not the plane?
I didn't say it's not the plane. I said it's not a plane specifically. You're not correct. It's a horizontal plane, a plane in the orientation of horizontal.
My bad. Yes, a horizontal plane. Not just a
He
plane.
did say that.
I did at one
He
point.
did say that.
But fine, yes, it does need
Simping for Nathan,
specificity
if
offered.
anything.
It does need specificity offered, and Brian is correct. Specifically horizontal plane, especially when referencing Earth in any regard for any measurement. Always a horizontal plane.
So you can't just go from one point on a freaking watermelon or a cantaloupe or a beach ball. So stop sending me these freaking messages, ballers.
Yeah, if you want to talk about measuring the surface of Earth with linear miles, they want to talk about measuring a cantaloupe. If you want to talk about how kilometres can only be represented with respect to a linear, flat distance as per the scale on a map, they want to talk about how you measure trousers with a tape. It's hilarious. It's like, are we measuring our trousers? It rings of a Kumu virus when these people tell me, "You telling me I can't run a tape measure around my fat belly?" Yeah, you can. It's just not how we deal with Earth, is it? Bless your fat belly. Yeah, linear. Yeah? The number of yards aren't being dealt with around your fat belly when we look at a map. And that scale that's flat and linear. Yeah, that's how we deal with Earth. Flat. What's that? You got a big fat belly? You can measure it with a tape? Round? Yeah, go on a diet then, fatty. Meanwhile, Earth's measured flat. It's linear. That means straight. Not round your fat belly with your tape measure. Yeah?
The thing is this, right? I can stand on the surface of a sphere and I can make a straight line from my position, right? If the force of gravity existed. Now, within our paradigm, the force of gravity doesn't exist anymore. So plumb bobs wouldn't even diverge, right? I don't know what plumb bobs would do because they have no explanation for what a plumb bob does since 1915 when Albert Einstein threw a force of gravity out the window. The thing is this, right? I could make a tangent to that spherical surface, right? I could then walk forward 1 foot and make another tangent. Now, both of those would be straight lines, right, geometrically. But none of them would be horizontal because none of those would be parallel to each other. And that's the thing. If they're not parallel, they're not horizontal. They're not horizontal, then they're not in alignment with reality. It's that simple. So if you think when you step forward, 1 foot, you make another straight line, that you're going to have two diverging horizontals, then you got problems. So
Did you just say your foot creates a straight line?
yeah, as a tangent, yeah.
No, it wouldn't. That's not how straight lines work. It would be a curve at all points.
A tangent is
It
not
would deviate from
geometrically
zero.
a tangent.
There would never be. Yeah, but your foot is not a point.
It's a point on the
Geometrically,
surface of a sphere. If I'm
foot.
standing on one.
Not a point. It's not.
Quick
Your
shout out.
foot is a foot. Point is
The point, the place I stand upon is the point on the surface of the sphere. When I take a step forward, I'm standing on a different point on the surface of the sphere. I can make two tangents to those 2 points. They will not be parallel because none of them will be horizontal. What is your exact issue with this again?
no. A foot is not a curve.
I didn't say anything about a foot. I never mentioned
Who the hell
the
said it
term
was a
foot.
curve?
Actually, I did.
You
I said
said
if I
your
step
foot
forward
is a
1 foot, you're
point?
right. I said if I step forward 1 foot, but it doesn't matter because if I step forward, right, a distance of 12 inches, what does it matter?
But an inch not a point either. I think is John's point, right?
Foot is not a point.
Yeah, well, if I take one step forward, let's take the foot out, 1 step forward, then.
Yes, and your foot is not a point.
Thank you, teacher John. Thank you for being such a brilliant teacher that hasn't taught me stuff.
Oh, wow. Oh, hyper specificity, Brian. I guess it's only important when you do it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I accept. The difference between me and you, John, is I accept when I've made a mistake or I'm wrong. No, Nathan, this is something you don't know. You're not aware of. The difference between me and you, John, is I accept that I'm wrong. I don't turn into a complete idiot.
Oh my God! Right, let's just do a
Thank
quick
you,
shout
Brian,
out.
for
Stop
calling
both
me
of
an
you.
idiot.
Hold your tongues.
So educated.
Quick
Okay.
Well,
shout
you
out.
did turn into an idiot when you did not answer the question,
Hold your
John.
tongues, gentlemen. Quick
Brian
shout out.
acknowledged when he was
because I don't
wrong,
speak
and we
Latin.
moved forward. It can't be done with you.
Are we moving forward? Is this moving forward?
Not shouting out this super
Does this
chat.
seem like
Shout
moving-
out, that's for sure.
Let it go, Neil. Let it go. He's too much of a child.
Nathan's got a super chat.
Shout out to Meme Cannon. Says, I'm simping for John. He's my favourite, Neil. Give you the super chat, Meme
Right.
Cannon.
Yeah, when you hold up mirrors, people get angry. They
Yeah,
start
yeah,
attacking
very
you on a
handsome.
personal level.
When you prove people wrong, then you get very angry.
I bet you no one can really think of the question I was trying to claim what you're stating as fact.
You guys are leaving the audience in the dark, and that's not
Yeah,
right.
it's fair enough
So,
point. What
unless
John's
you're going to
saying
explain
is,
to them.
as soon as you start ascribing the distance, Brian described it as a step or a foot, and John is saying you can't have this ascribed to a ball because you need a single point. And in any measurable, quantifiable distance, right down to the inch, the foot, the yard, the mile, they're all incapable of description as a single point. That's John's point, right? Unless I'm missing something.
No, an inch can be a single point, just not on the surface of the sphere. But you can still have a single point on the surface of the sphere.
That's not what point means. Point
Inch is a
doesn't
straight line.
have two-dimensional. It is a point has 0 dimensions. You're saying this two-dimensional line is a point, and it's not.
Who's saying a two-dimensional line is a point?
Your foot is a point on a sphere, Brian?
I said, if I take this, okay, John, okay, I'll redo it because you're having big issues with it.
It's not big issue.
I'm standing on the surface of a sphere, and I make a tangent right underneath my feet. If I take a step forward, 1 step forward, and I make another tangent right underneath my feet, right at those 2 points where those 2 tangents meet, those 2 tangents will not be parallel to each other.
No.
They will be divergent. So they won't be horizontal. So they don't match reality, which was my actual point.
What
Hold on, John.
point?
Just so it doesn't get dragged out forever. Can you just acknowledge what Brian said? He's pointing out with his multiple tangents that are never parallel, please.
That's fine. Yeah, it's not a tangent. No, I never asserted it was. What I'm pointing out is to assert it's a tangent, you have to first deny geometry.
Why would you have to deny geometry when the tangents to a sphere or circles are part of geometry?
You don't get a plane from a point.
The tangent is touching the surface of a sphere or a circle at 1 point.
So not your foot.
I said underneath my foot. I just corrected that. The point underneath my foot on the surface of a sphere.
So which point underneath your foot is touching the sphere, and what's the rest of it floating into tangent?
I'll tell you what I do. I could remove me from the equation altogether and just go into maybe degrees from the center point of the globe. Somebody point to that.
Please
So we need
do.
to do the maths for you for how for
I'm
what
really sorry
length.
to interject,
Do you know what I mean?
but just that's kind of the point, really. And I'm glad you've said it in that way, Brian, because isn't that just the point? As soon as you try and ascribe
Not here. It's not, Nathan.
any
Sorry,
measurable,
go on. Sorry.
as soon as you try and ascribe any measurable quality to the surface of Earth that you're actually standing on or measuring, that's geometry, then you're going to violate any base principle of that geometry if the surface is curving. So in order to get around that, you need to, as you just did, take it away from the actual measurable surface of the world that we stand on and measure with feet and inches and miles and in a linear fashion, and take it into a mathematics that isn't the surface of the world so that you can have it tangential to a point. Now, that is a reasonable summary, would you not agree?
You've missed the bit that they're not, as Brian said, that they're not therefore horizontal or parallel. Those two tangents. That's Brian's point, I think.
Yeah, we got that. And I made John acknowledge it, and he said that was fine. That's as good as we got out of him. But I did definitely recognise that point that Brian was making.
Yeah, but see, the thing is,
my point
I was
isn't being
describing a
recognized.
situation.
Brian was
I was
first.
describing.
Okay, Brian.
I was describing a situation. I used the term foot. That was incorrect. John pointed, that's incorrect. Brian, that's incorrect. And then I just said I took a step forward, right? Step is no defined distance. So at that point, I'm not making any claim of measurement.
Yeah.
I'm not using anything.
Yeah.
I'm just describing a situation.
Yeah, but can you acknowledge what I've just said, though? That's the point. For you to quantify it spherically, you're not measuring Earth then, yeah? You're going to take it to a step, because a foot's not good enough spherically, right? It won't work. So you've got to change it to a step, because that's unquantifiable and therefore okay. But you're not measuring Earth anymore.
You can traverse a foot, it's fine. The point of recognition needs to be that after however small, larger distance, whether it's quantified or not, at the point that you have to then set up another point-based tangent to the surface, those two tangents that you've now created will not be parallel. Therefore,
Brian said.
I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that. Could you please acknowledge my point?
What exactly is
Repeat it back. Repeat it back, because y'all been listening so well. I don't acknowledge anything. Hold on.
You said a point was zero.
I don't acknowledge anything. Hold on. I don't acknowledge anything. That's your position, and I don't like to be proven wrong.
That wasn't my position.
Restate what I said.
Incorrect, not my position. My position was very clear.
Restate what I said.
Concede when you're wrong.
Brian, we've acknowledged your position 3 times.
He's asking someone else to give back to him his position when he's not even able to give them their position correctly or honestly.
We've had your position repeated multiple times now. He's asking for the same in return, and you're rumpusing him.
No, you don't know what's going on here, man.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I'm finished with this, is what it is.
Nathan
does. Yes, Nathan does.
Special boy treatment. You don't get special boy treatment and then get to turn around and treat me like garbage. No.
But you're the special boy. Nathan takes your side most of the time. All Nathan said was, okay, we've heard your point. Yes, we did. Why can't you address his? Like, that's all he asked. It doesn't have to be an argument. Like,
what?
We don't know who you're talking to, Eli.
Ask him again, Nathan. Ask him again.
Could John make his point?
Hold on, Eli. Eli, who are you addressing with that statement? Were you addressing Brian or John with that statement?
I was addressing John because you had responded in saying, yeah, he did. And then Neil said, no, he didn't. And then I said, yeah, he did.
That's very useful. Thank you, Eli.
I'm sorry you can't remember what you said 5 seconds ago, Nathan. I'm not going to help you any further than that.
Hold on, says the guy that said, did I lose my train of thought?
Before you go on.
We're a cluster screw, friends.
Got a lot of your wind noise. Go ahead, Adam. Eli's wind noise, that is, not Brian's.
Just because I was late joining and I was hearing Brian. I think I summarised what I thought Brian was explaining, but what I didn't hear was John's objection or point of amendment. Could he just make that clear? Because I'm a little lost. I don't really.
Yeah, everyone is. Brian, though, isn't. He said, I don't listen, and I don't concede. I gave him his point. But
Well,
now nobody can give me back mine.
I can tell
Now
you.
be
were having a
quiet,
fit, but
please.
I was asking you what your
Please.
point was.
That to describe anything three-dimensionally, you can't do it on the surface of a sphere without having your foot is not a point. To describe anything, any of these things, you're going to take them to the center of the sphere to describe them and cast them out with angles.
Yeah, nobody was having an argument about how you would have to do it. I was just describing it.
But see now.
But the thing is that you didn't concede
to help
anything,
Brian
John.
out.
You didn't concede anything, John. That was a lie which you said a second ago. Because there was no argument about what I said concerning the two tangents not being parallel. You didn't argue against that point. There was no argument. So you didn't concede when you agreed that wasn't you conceding to anything.
I acknowledged your point.
That's a lie.
You wouldn't acknowledge
when you said that you conceded. You didn't.
You would not acknowledge my point when I was making it. And now you're trying to act like you were acknowledging my point. Has anybody picked up his game?
And I conceded all along without problem. That's a lie again.
Okay, fine. So can I just step in at this point then? Sorry, John. So at this point, my summary then gets to get reiterated. Would you agree, Brian, that given that the measurement standards that we use are laid down in terms of how they get applied to the surface of Earth in a Cartesian fashion, that you can't, as John is pointing out, apply those to the surface of a sphere? Because you can't suggest that a foot, an inch, a mile can terminate at a point on a sphere, because it's a violation of that standard that's being used when you say, in this case, I don't want to trigger you, but foot, right? Can that?
Yeah, okay, you're falling into the trap, Nathan. Yeah, I agree. That, a foot, because the foot is a straight line, it's not going to work on the surface of the sphere. If I'm just describing it from the surface, it would have to be that amount of distance and arc length from the center. I'm fully, you would not believe, Nathan, how fully aware I am of that. There's so much I'm aware of geometrically that you wouldn't believe it. Honestly, no problem with me understanding that simple concept. Maybe go watch my videos, Nathan. Maybe watch them. Maybe then you'll be convinced that I know what I'm talking
about. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm a special boy.
Yeah,
what's going on? What's happening? What's happening? I thought I'd taken the full brunt.
I take exception, Nathan, to you suddenly acting as if you're the teacher of something here. You're not the teacher of something here. Before John ever said to you that you can't have an up and a down on a sphere, I was saying it. You ignored it consistently. I specifically said you can only have an in and into the center or out from the surface. I specifically said that, and you ignored it all the time. Suddenly John says it to you, and it's a revelation, and you can't shut up about it.
2 weeks before.
That's pretty much correct.
The first person to
2 weeks before, right? 2 weeks before.
I'll take it on the chin.
That's right, John. It's there in the live shows.
Let me just reiterate. Hello. Let's just reiterate Brian's gripe. Brian's gripe is that upon pointing this out multiple times and it being met with deaf ears on my part, that is to say, I'm not saying, yeah, you're right. It's only up and down perpendicular to a plane, like I've said so concisely today. Brian's saying, when I point it out, it's deaf ears, no one's repeating anything. Yet John says it, suddenly it's a revelation. Correct?
With you, Nathan. I can't speak for other people. I'm talking about you.
Oh, okay. I mean, what do you want me to say? When I've heard it from John, it's resonated better than when it's been said by you. Is that what you want me to say? So it's like you're the martyr and I'm the unreasonable one.
John just said the same thing as I said. There's no special different way. You say it the way you say it. You know, the difference is that I could say something to you 10 times, 100 times, in one area or the other. John says it and it's a revelation. Now, I don't mind that, right? I tolerate that when John says something, you pay more attention. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem with you then turning around and trying to geometrically educate me.
Nah,
Well,
don't take that the wrong way.
When you said it the
all
other day,
right, well,
the
let's clear that
best
up.
thing you could say about the video the other day is,
You're
oh,
amused.
after 17 minutes it got there.
No,
That
I'm
means
not
you're
trying
not
to
paying
patronise
attention.
you. Let me apologise, right? That's not my intention. My intention is only ever to educate the audience. And what you're suggesting is there's a good chance you only found out the thing that you're reiterating in a slow tone 30 seconds earlier, yet you're seemingly condescending to me who knew it long before you did, and you've even ignored it multiple times. How dare you condescend to me like you're educating me? I'm not. I'm trying to educate an audience. Don't take it like I'm trying to condescend to you, and I will. I'll acknowledge it. And I'll acknowledge the super chat, which gives the sentiment beautifully. Brian knew 2 weeks before the show, John. Yeah, thank you very much, Meme Cannon, for the super chat. Yeah, Brian.
All you
I'll
got to do
acknowledge
is
that.
check some of Brian's old videos and you'll see.
I'm still not sure on the point of contention. Call me a bit of a thickie, if you wish, but I'm just trying to keep up with what appears to be a point of contention. And getting things right and described right is important. But what I heard John say was, at this point where if you're going to create a tangent, it can only be a point source on the surface, yeah? Is that the point of contention, that this actually can only be a theoretical point source where you create the tangent?
Well, yeah, but you would need first to establish the system from a plane to do that point source, to establish that quadrant-based geometry that you're getting ready to use as a point source.
You mean because you're going to apply geometry to what you're doing?
Yeah, because you're going to say a foot.
Of circumferential travel, which would equate to 0.000026515 degrees of angular change
From hell.
of my
Yes.
two
Thank you.
set up parallel planes, which are not parallel because they're out by that just stated amount, both being
Right.
tangent to the surface at a point.
Can't have those.
That's what I've got. That's
Did you
what
not
I've got
listen
being
to Brian?
described.
Bloody hell. Did you not listen to Brian?
That's what Brian's described. But we're now accepting that whenever you create a tangent to the surface of a sphere, presupposed or not, there isn't actually a surface area per se. It is, as John says, it is a point source. Because this is you're translating reality when you've set up your level to then mathematics. So when you translate it from reality to the mathematics that you're going to presuppose you're living on a ball, it becomes a point source. It doesn't have an it. It doesn't apply to the surface of the sphere. It can't, can it?
Yes,
That's
sir.
not what he just said.
Thank you.
He's just said that you need to define it within the system first to have that point to begin with. So before you get to the point on the ball, you need it in a system to begin with. That's what I just heard, at least, unless I'm adding things that aren't there, hallucinating what John just said. Did I add that in unnecessarily? You need the system first, right?
No, but yeah, but the system being geometry, you've not yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's all. We were not yet using. At the moment, we've got a big circle, haven't we? And a dot, a point on it, and then a straight line.
No, that's, again, I don't want to be accused of favoritism, but no, from what I'm understanding, the system that's defined gets defined at the point that the measurement structure gets defined with foot. Therefore, that's the starting point, unless I'm very much mistaken.
What derivation of unit you're going to?
Yeah, geometry. Then we're into the earth measurement with feet.
The derivation of unit is a different argument with regards to what I think is the point that we've got diverging zeniths or non-parallel horizontals.
Exactly. That was my point. So then you're into, so you can't define this within the construct or reality of measuring Earth with a defined system like miles, inches, etc. You can't do that. You've got to take it somewhere else. And Brian succinctly summarised that point when he's like, well, I'll take it out of the system or use a non-defined description with a step rather than an inch or a foot or a yard or anything, right? So that was my point. You have to take it out of reality.
It is out of reality because it's on a ball, which is why Brian said, I'll give you the angular measurement, which is what I worked out. So we could progress forward 0.00000026515 degrees, which would equate to that foot in terms of traversement of a presupposed spherical surface.
I mean, because that's non-linear.
No, but this is perfectly acceptable geometric ways of describing the movement, the repositioning. And that's fine. But if you're going, I said, are we attacking the derivation of the unit, or are we dealing with the premise that once we go to this land where we're going to move a foot or that many degrees, that the implication is that we no longer have parallel horizontals? That's Brian's point.
Here, hold on.
Yeah,
but when you go to this Narnia, right, and take it out of reality, you're going to the center of a sphere on a plane to describe those degrees with respect to, because it's a point source. You have to then establish a quadrant-based direction that your angle is going to move in.
Yeah, but my overall,
all this mathematical stuff is turning my brain off, but turning me on.
Well, can we just hear John and Adam? Yes, indeedy, Brian.
Brian, just slow down a sec. I'm still trying to get John's point. I can't agree or disagree. So after I'm doing what I'm doing, which is talking about angular change with regards to the amount on a circumference and setting up point source parallel planes at those different positions, when am I going to, as a baller, when am I invoking the prerequisite flat earth? At the moment, I've not done it yet. I believe I live on a ball. I've set up a tangent, and I've set up another tangent, which I know isn't parallel to it.
What you've done is you've created 2 point sources, though. One on the surface of the sphere and one on the center of the sphere.
No.
And you're describing the angular change from the center of the sphere and the angular change from the surface of the sphere as it would be equated in degrees on that surface. You see, so you're describing your sphere from the center. You don't have a frame of reference to describe this from now.
No, you just said
you've removed all aspects of measurement at that point.
No, the frame of reference now is the R, because you've set up the frame of reference to be the sphere, which is going to be defined by, again, geometry of a sphere, but also fundamentally for any real world application by a presupposed R value. That's now your coordinate system you're working with. Now, you can argue that sphere requires a Cartesian grid system to define its positions in actuality.
Right.
That would be fine.
What do you have a measurement? You have to have a conceptual unit, right, which will have that, but you also have to have a reference. What is your reference then if you cannot reference it except from the center of a sphere that you can't be in?
You're going to have to make that point clear. I didn't understand the point you're making.
You cannot reference it.
Reference what?
The center of the sphere you think you're standing on at that point. You cannot reference it.
I don't need to reference it.
It's not something you experience.
No.
You're describing it from the center of a sphere. You're not in the center of the sphere.
I'm not describing it from the center of the sphere. I'm describing it from the tangent point source I've created. Now, will I translocate it later in calculation? Yes, but I don't need to reference the point I'm going to translocate it to.
No, you have to have a point of reference. Your point of reference
is my tangent.
It's the outside of the sphere, right? Yeah. If you're going to try to say that, then you don't have the inch. You don't have the foot. You don't have the mile.
We're jumping to units now. We're trying to define the reference point. The reference point is the point source on my imaginary tangent that I've just created on my imaginary curve here. But in reality, I'm stood there on the ground having leveled my device. Now, I'm going to
Exactly.
real world measurement.
Just give Adam props for dropping that in. Thank you. Keeps me happy.
No, but right there, when you
Hold on, he hasn't
if
finished.
you're not going to, if you're
Adam
not
hasn't finished. He's in the middle of a thought.
Carry on, it's fine. If I've taken that real world measurement at that point, all that is an angle. If what I apply it to is up to me after that, isn't it? But to me to translocate it to a center of a presupposed Earth doesn't have to be referenceable. I'm going to use it for calculation that point and to apply that 0.0000002 of a degree as a percentage of my of my circumferential value derived from R in all of my
calculations. You don't have a measurement. Then you don't have a measurement at that point. I've got one using calculation.
Well, I would say at this point he has, let's say he does have a measurement that has nothing to do with the Earth whatsoever, because all he's mentioned is a tangent so far, and he hasn't even mentioned a separate measurement for there to be diverging horizontals. So at this point, whatever he does have, it doesn't have anything to do with the Earth.
So at this point, he has a point and nothing else.
Sounds like it.
Good point.
Adam?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Nothing in physical reality, nothing that can be ascribed to geometric distances, nothing that can be utilizable with an inch, which hasn't, as Adam points out, been ascribed yet, and we haven't needed to. But we've got nothing. We've got nothing of value when we're talking about Earth, then, haven't we? Right.
I've set right. So
that was my point.
At this point, I've set up a horizontal, and I know whatever distance I travel, however I need to describe it, be it degrees, curved inches, whatever. I know that when I move, even as a baller, when I set up my next tangent horizontal plane, it will not be parallel with the previous one. That's a problem. That's the problem Brian's pointing out, I think.
No. How did you get a line?
1 second, John. 1 second.
How'd you get a vertical? Hold up.
1 second, John. What I pointed out was that if those tangents, whether the arc length between the 2 points that the tangents are meeting, the surface of the circle or sphere at, whether that's a small arc length or a great arc length, it won't matter, because those 2 tangents will not be parallel to each other. Which means none of them can ever, no tangent to any point on the surface of a sphere can ever be horizontal. Even though that might be what I want it to be, it won't be, because there will be no consistency in that orientation, and it's the orientation that's important. So in reality, when I do that, it doesn't matter if those 2 straight lines that I place on the ground are at different elevations, they will always be parallel to each other. And so if you're claiming my point was that if you're claiming a situation where you don't have, where you made 2 straight lines, the 2 points on the surface of Earth, and those lines are not parallel to each other, then your claim is out the window. Because in reality, all horizontals, because you can't have horizontal on a sphere, the orientation of a horizontal is a constant, and all lines made in that orientation will always be parallel to each other. Always.
Pardon me. The point source is, we're back to my point now. How did you get a vertical to create a tangent plane? We only have a point. We don't have nothing else. What are you talking about? Tangent.
Spirit level.
I don't even need it.
Adam, do you have to take the position of the man urinating down our back? Right, I'm going to shout out super chat, but it's not fun having Adam take this position. Fun for him, probably.
Was it painful?
Go on, Adam. I'll shout out the super chat in a second. Go ahead.
I'm not playing an advocacy role here. These premises are perfectly acceptable for them to define, right? The destruction isn't to shout inches at them, is to let them get to the point of setting up their 2 non-parallel planes and then laugh at them. But you
Pardon
can't
me,
destroy a
how
baller.
do you
And
set up that plane?
it's not reasonable to try and take them apart at the point that they're setting up their failure with just
Pardon me.
shouting down, derive your unit. It doesn't help the argument. It doesn't help the non-informed listener understand why, even if you'd like to call it allowing them to beg the question, but you've got to at least allow them to set it up to demonstrate why it's false.
Pardon me, you just conceded that all they have is a point source. How did you get a vertical to have a tangent plane to create the horizontal?
There is no verticals on the sphere. So you won't be creating verticals. It's there.
Oh,
But they don't need that for the points. They don't need that
so
for
no
a point.
tangent plane.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You
But
don't
I
need
get. But isn't
Right.
Adam's point that, like, obviously we all know that, right?
No.
So it's like, I guess Adam's trying to say that when you're talking to not a math professor or somebody who gives a crap, like, you got to make it palatable. Like, if I told my girl what you said just now, she'd look at me like a deer in headlights.
Yeah, that's no
As
problem.
simple as it is.
Eli, no worries, right? What we're dealing with here is hyperspecificity in terms of what is acquirable when you assume a single point, right? Now, this, I don't care if it's undigestible to the layman, right? This is good. I'm enjoying it. So
Yeah, me too.
So we're at the point, John, where you're having Brian explain where they get their initial plane from, correct?
But I don't need.
Yes.
I don't need anything to define a point.
A point, a plane. They're not the same thing, are they?
Yeah, but I don't
Point,
need
a
anything
plane.
to define the point. You said point. I don't need anything to define that initial
Oh,
point.
no, I give you a point. I give you a point. Now, how do you have a plane?
The
How do I have a
tangent.
tangent? How do I have a
You've
tangent?
got a tangential. You're about to set up. a
Hold on, Adam.
mathematical
Hold on, Adam.
tangential
Just one sec,
plane
Adam. Just one
with your
sec.
spirit
Yes,
level.
Brian. Yes, Brian. Yes, the
How do I have a
tangent.
tangent? Well, the tangent is going to be 90 degrees from my zenith.
Where'd you get that? From a
Your
ball.
spirit level.
Shut up, Adam.
Zenith is straight down through.
But this is John's point.
Zenith is straight down through me to the point.
Good.
I can do the same on a flat earth, except for there will be a vertical and a horizontal involved, not just a 90 degrees. Do you understand? Like, it's stupid.
Yes. I'm going to read out the super chat.
So,
Click says, God's love to you, purporting his truth, Isaiah 42:8. Thank you for the super chat.
yet again,
So
a zenith is not a point. A zenith is not a point. That's
Yeah, it's a point above your head.
no, it's not.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
a line.
It's
It's a
that
line.
point directly
It's not the
above your
It's
head.
not a point.
That is
It's
the
a
definition
line.
of zenith.
It's a line that
On
goes
screen
through your
right now.
body directly
There's
over
no
your
lines.
head.
There's no lines.
Directly over your head is
No, it's
your
a point
zenith.
source
It
above
is
your
a
head.
line.
Show me one zenith where there's a big line.
Well,
Show me one zenith where there's a big line. There isn't.
You've got two things,
Yeah,
the thing above your head and your head. Between those two things, head and thing above head, that's two things forming the line.
No, there is no line.
Yeah, look on Nathan
But you
is presenting.
imagine a line.
Show on Nathan is presenting.
Yeah, it's got zenith on screen.
On
Adam.
screen, in reality, when is there ever a big Indian arrow pointing to the star?
I
That's
walk
just-
around with
yeah.
a zenith line. Have you not seen it? It's very erect.
Ah, you carry one around with you, hey, on your back, just in case you're going to get underneath a star, and then you're pointing straight up and go, "There's my zenith line." That's why I carry it.
And there's always
No,
there's
it's
always a
just
little
a
dot
point
that follows
source,
above your head
which
too,
is
right?
above.
There's
your
always
head.
a little dot above your head too, right?
No, it's
Is
just
that
a
your
point
point?
source, like the point source on the ground, not a real point in reality, just an imaginary
But
place
not above
in the
your head.
mathematical construct you're making.
So not above your head, it's on the ground.
Can we just agree that we're dealing with conceptual?
That's
Yes,
not what
there's
Adam
no
said. That's
equator
just being
in
an
reality. Yes, there's no latitude lines in reality.
I
Yes,
have a question.
the zenith is not really a line coming out of my head. Okay, Adam, fine. We'll give it you. Yes, there's no zenith line coming out my head. There's no Indian arrow.
Right.
Fine.
There's no point
I
that
have a
follows you
question,
around
though.
wherever you walk. Either acknowledge that as well.
Yeah,
So
I agree
your
with you.
point
When
is-
you,
Of
when
course
you made
not.
the point to Brian earlier, you made it quite specifically clear that any point source isn't actually in reality. Yeah, it's a zero-dimensional construct. Your statement earlier at the beginning of this to Brian. So of course I agree with that.
So there's no little dot that you just said that's directly over your head everywhere you go.
There is one that doesn't start.
I don't know. I don't know if this is more of a point than what I was going to ask, which how do you have your zenith equate to 90 degrees without a horizontal plane of reference?
You don't.
Because if you have a circle, you don't know what. If you have a circle that's 360 degrees and you're standing somewhere, how do you know which is 90?
You use what's called a cross staff. So in doing that, it basically is a plumb bob, and what you don't then have to do is calculate your co-altitude. You just derive the co-angle directly from measurement from your cross staff.
You can still have
That's
a
a
90
whole
degrees
vertical.
to where a zenith meets a tangent. You can still have a 90
Yeah,
degrees.
Yeah, but your 90,
Knowing
your
that your
90
cross
is
staff
to the
points
tangent. though.
directly to the centre of the Earth.
The 90 is only to the tangent, though, Brian.
No, Nathan. The line is coming from the center of the globe or the sphere through that point and up to it. Right? And the tangent is 90 degrees to that point. To that line from the center.
See,
That's how it works.
all they have is a point, though. Now they're talking about all this other stuff. Where'd you get all that?
From my cross staff.
From your spirit level.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
Now I've
From
got a cross
physical
staff now.
reality that you cannot reference.
Yeah, because I'm not at sea.
Back to my point again.
Because I'm not at sea, and I'm a 5th century monk. The way in which I measure the stars is to use a cross staff. The principles of a plumb bob to define, my vertical. And I know that I live on a ball, so I know that vertical is pointing straight to the center of the Earth and straight up to my zenith. As long as I can get my cross staff balanced correctly, and then, like I said, I can take my angle to the star off the cross staff and get my elevation angle there. But in this case, I don't have to take it away from 90. I've already derived the co-angle.
Yeah, you've already just skipped over the entire problem at this point, and you moved on to something else because your point of concession you've already conceded, and now you just want to move on with the argument.
No, the issue here is the lack of understanding, I think, John, on your side and Nathan's side, of the importance of the orientation. Because that was my initial point. Right, you can still get a 90 between a line from the center of the globe in imparting a tangent at one point on the surface of that sphere, blah, blah. You can still geometrically do all that. But the problem is the orientations of horizontal and vertical cannot exist. That is the problem. Not whether you could create a 90 degree angle while standing on the surface of the globe. Who cares? Right. You could create a 90 degree angle on your floor for the corner of the wall. It doesn't matter. The point being is that the orientations of horizontal and vertical cannot exist within that paradigm. Now, I'm not teaching you that, you know that, but that's the point.
Yeah, I know that. But you're missing my point. You're missing my point, and you're wanting to jump to that. And no matter how much I restate it, you won't listen until I get Nathan to accept the point, and then you'll have said it 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, you won't accept it till I've accepted it.
Make your point then, John. Make your point then. I'll be quiet and I'll do my best to take on board what it is you're saying.
After I got Adam to concede that he only has a point with no reference to reality.
Like the zenith.
He went to zenith. He went to zenith right after, didn't he?
No, John, you're getting a bit delusional, mate. What is your point?
Go on, Adam.
I'm delusional?
That's
when
what he
you
said.
said you
Well, I know
always
it.
have
That's
a
not
Called you
point.
weird.
delusional.
Because you were just given the floor and you started it after I got Adam to concede. Well, you didn't, unless you'd like to go into that conversation. But you're supposed to be explaining your point.
What is the time frame on this?
Well, I don't know.
As
The
long
way
as you
you
need,
keep
I don't
not
mind staying
getting
live.
the point could be about
I
a
want to
week.
make a
long as you need.
presentation for you, though.
As long as you need.
I'm done.
That was quicker than I expected.
Why couldn't you just reiterate your point instead of saying that when I had Adam to concede? I'm still waiting.
Yeah, John. If you can't make a point clearly and concisely, then I don't know what point you have. Because if it's something that we all already know, then how is it a point?
The point source that they will appeal to create anything, they don't have anything else. They don't have any frame of reference in which to describe this from. They don't have measurement, so they can't use a conceptual unit to apply to an aspect of reality to even translate the information to you.
Yeah, that seems to be right in line with my original point concerning those two tangents not being parallel to each other. So consequently, none of them can be horizontal. Horizontal can exist within that paradigm, which would be the orientation of horizontal, which is a constant, right? So that means vertical can exist within that paradigm. So these things can't be described. That was my, so anything that's outside of that, outside of reality, which is two straight lines that are both claimed to be horizontal, but they're not parallel with each other, means that it's outside reality. It doesn't fit with reality. No, they're not horizontals. That was my original point. That was my original point, John. You've just
That's not
tried
what
to
I
go
said,
around in a
though.
circle and make my
That's
point
not
in
what
a
I
different way.
said.
That is
Why are you
not what I
responding
said.
with?
That's exactly
Why
what
are you
said.
responding
There's
with? Wait, I missed it. What did he say? What did you? What are you saying? He said, Brian. I'm sorry.
John is now referring to there being no reference for this point to do anything with it, basically. There's no measurement available and there's no orientation. He didn't say orientation because he knew at that point he'd just be making my point. That was my initial point. And I stressed it here, orientation.
You did say everything
you
other
just
than
made the
orientation.
point I made, but you tried to make it in a different way and pretend you weren't making the same point, as if you had a new point that no one was understanding. Yeah, when I said it, when I said it, John, when I pointed that out, you were saying you used the word push because you were trying to be anal about it because you have an issue with me.
Okay, let me just.
So how did what you say? Okay,
again.
1 second.
Okay,
How did what you
restate
say?
my
Okay,
point.
Brian,
from
just
what
one
I said?
sec. Just let John respond, and then there's somebody new in Discord that I'm hoping to say hello to. So go ahead, John. Refracted curvature.
They do not have the means to ascribe any conceptual unit to any aspect of reality. They do not have any way to reference reality. Now, where did I say horizontal orientation? Anything in that?
No, John. No, hold on. No, as a third party listener, you literally, when I jumped in the conversation, you said they don't have a reference for any. If you have a point, that's not a horizontal line. So what do you have? You don't have anything. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was appealing.
Okay, so why are you arguing with him now when he just repeated what you said?
No, he's making his point.
He didn't repeat what I said.
Eli,
I said, John, you employ, by what you said, you're employing the orientations, the consistent orientations of horizontal and vertical. Where all horizontals are parallel to each other and all verticals are parallel to each other. You employ that via what you said. And now you're trying to deny. That is the very reference that you need. The reference that you're speaking about, that you're saying doesn't exist on the surface of the sphere, right, is those orientations. Or are those orientations?
It's not just those orientations, Brian.
No, but without those orientations, it all falls apart. You don't. Without those
listen to me.
You don't. It all falls apart.
Listen to me.
One at a time. Yeah, John.
There is nothing. They don't have anything. The orientation, distance, up, down, zenith, parallel. They don't have anything.
Yeah, but
It's
do
the
you now
emptiest
agree?
bag of nothing.
Okay,
So
but
aren't
do
you
you now
agreeing
agree?
with him then?
Eli,
So,
chill.
1 second. Sorry, Eli, just 1 second. So, John, do you now agree that horizontal and vertical not existing for them means that they don't have any reference to work with,
I never disagreed with that point.
right? So,
I made a further
so when I
point
said,
to
so you
that.
were, so when you said, so you were including horizontal and vertical within your statement. You said you didn't have anything. So would
Oh
you
my
say you were
God.
including horizontal and vertical within your statement?
Everything, Brian.
So
Everything we
would you say,
experience.
it's a yes or no question, John. Where are you including horizontal and vertical then within your statement?
It's part of everything.
So I take that as a yes then, since you won't say yes. Because I don't know why you're unable to be honest, but you won't say yes. So that
When
means
I
you have
said
no. So that
everything,
means that
Brian.
what I said originally, you have no real issue with, other than the fact that I used the term for.
Right. Because you're
So you've
trying
made
to
the same
describe
point
this
I was making.
tangent plane.
Brian, you keep talking through his answer.
You're describing a tangent plane that they do have? No, they don't.
Why
No,
don't
they
they?
don't.
They don't have an orientation for the tangent plane. That's
They
my.
do have a tangent plane. Let's just this is the crux. I understand what John's saying now. He's denying them absolutely everything. So no, they can't go into the back garden, get out their spirit level, and set up a tangent plane for where they are. Is that what you're saying, John?
Spirit level.
Okay, a
Really?
theodolite, an auto leveling
Or anything.
theodolite,
Yeah.
right? They get that out.
An auto level field.
They've leveled it, and you're saying they're not even able to, after leveling that theodolite, call the plane that they've just created within the theodolite a tangent to the surface of their ball. They can't even do that.
Yeah, because it was auto level.
I'd have to disagree with that because they could still measure a 90 from
So
what
that
would be
level of
mathematically a straight line coming through the sphere from its center point. Measure a
Where do
90
they
off of
measure
that.
that?
Measure
Where do
a
they measure
90
the
off of that.
90? Off of
Off
the
of a
level?
point directly above their head. They can infer a point if they like that's coming from the center of the globe. They can still measure a 90, right?
Off a
They can still
point?
measure a 90.
No.
Well, they know what a circle is, John. They can still measure a 90 and create a tangent. But that tangent, who cares, John? This is the point. You're jumping on what I'm saying, and you think you have some point. You don't. You're missing the greater point, even though you're claiming it yourself.
Oh my God.
Without the orientation of horizontal and vertical, it means absolutely nothing because it's all happening. It's all happening in fantasy outside of reality, which was my very point.
So the point source that they're going to use, this up in the sky over their head on the ground, which is not a point, you just described a line, is now capable of creating a level tangent plane that's
Well,
not
John, that's
level.
why they invoked it. It's invoked for a long time, a force of gravity, and they're still trying to invoke it with a plumb bob. The point I'm making is all that means nothing. Them invoking an out-of-date force of gravity for their plumb bob and everything else they do means nothing because they don't have the orientations of horizontal and vertical. So everything they do after that means nothing because it does not adhere to reality, where those orientations do exist as constants. So I don't care about any geometry after that. That's just geometry. You can do whatever. I don't care about anything because those plumb bobs will not. They will diverge from each other. They will not be parallel like they are in reality. That's the point I'm making. That's the point that, as far as I'm concerned, is important.
Did you ever think in your life that you would be taking the position that you could use your auto level to get a 90 for your tangent plane? Because that's what y'all are doing to me. And I think it's disgusting.
No, I'm describing their situation, John. And I'm giving them, even right tacitly, right, I'm not giving it to them, I'm just pointing out what they claim. is that force of gravity causes the plumb bob to point towards the center of the globe, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Not all of it falls apart without the orientations of horizontal and vertical. They don't have those orientations that are constants in our world, right? It's over. It's that simple. Any geometry they do after that means not, and this is what I show through my videos, that when I show their geometry, it fails in reality.
I thought we all
Even
agreed
with
on
something
that.
simple like an angular size measurement. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, but they're missing my point about there is no reference. There's no way to even talk about this.
Oh, I got.
Yeah.
That's what I said. That's what I said. I agree with that. They have no reference. Okay.
Yeah, but the references would be horizontal and vertical. That would be the initial reference. Before you measure at them, you'd have to have a reference that would be consistent. They don't have that.
So their point source is useless, as
Right.
was conceded earlier. What are you all doing?
Yeah, but
You all
why are you
hate
jumping
me?
on me?
Is
about
that what
the
it
two-
is?
Why are we
You
jumping on me
hate
about the
me?
two tangents?
Is that
then?
what it is?
What was the
Do
purpose
you
of that?
hate me? Do you hate me?
No.
Is that what this has become?
No, but
We're having a show. We're having a show, guys. It's important
Yeah,
for
but this is
everybody
what
who
makes
needs
this
to catch
show.
up. No, I'm saying everybody who needs to catch up, be thankful that you are an actor in this. Like, don't get all to come on. We're all good.
This makes me think you're
I've been
both fucking against
insulted.
each other.
I've been insulted for 2 days.
No,
of
that's
this
not
crap.
true. No, John,
Yeah,
that's
I've
not
been
fair,
called
John.
thick. I've been called
John,
thick.
that's not
I've
fair
been called
because you
stupid,
always
a
say
liar.
John. That's a separate
I'm
That's
tired
not
of it.
You weren't able to
I'm
concede.
tired of it. I'm tired of it.
No, that's a separate. This is you having little lunge now. That's what that is.
That's a new
No,
one.
it's
What was
not.
that?
I can't trust someone, John, who's not capable of conceding when they're wrong.
I don't think
Right,
he's
so
wrong.
I'm a liar.
He's not wrong. How is he wrong?
You don't know what we're talking about, Nathan, like we said earlier. In general,
But
John,
I thought he was saying you're not wrong for saying that you can't trust someone who doesn't concede.
It's a
That's true.
conversation from yesterday.
in general, right, I found, right, with refractive curvature, that when he's shown to be wrong or incorrect in any way about something, he becomes extremely anal. He won't just concede. And I can't trust somebody who does that, because that means I can't trust their judgment. Because when push comes to shove, their pride gets in the way. They're just conceding I'm wrong.
So
You don't think we're all a little? You don't think we're all a little like that?
Pause. So that when I made my statement that you all now agree with, and you argued,
I don't agree
can't
with
trust
it.
yourself
I don't agree with
any
it.
further.
Don't swarm on me.
Whoa. Yeah, go on, Adam.
I don't agree with it at all. I think you're failing badly to make any coherent point other than an appeal to definition of units, which will convince no newbie. It might be very smugly, you can sit there in your smug knowledge that the earth's flat and you can say with absolute certitude, you can't have anything. That'll convince no one. All it does is inflate your own ego. It's useless as an argument to anybody you're trying to convince. It's futile.
See, now,
It's
I would
futile,
like to point out,
and all it
with Adam,
is
he just
the
called me smug.
absolute pinnacle of the argument. But like I said, it's of no value.
Right. You just
when
call me smug.
I
Can I
see you
respond to
triggered.
you
I can
attacking
see
me
you
now?
Triggered. I can see
Yeah.
you triggered, and you're being very rude.
Yeah, I'm
Relax,
being
John.
rude because I called
Relax,
you smug.
John. I hear him being passive aggressive. You are being passive aggressive, Adam.
That's
You went a
not
little
passive-aggressive,
extra for
that's
him to be a
directly
friend. For him
aggressive.
to be a friend,
It's
I understand that. Just
it's
I
directly aggressive to the crapness of the argument and how shit it is when you put it out there. You, Nathan, anyone that descends it to that as if it means anything to the layman. You're fooling yourself with your own egos.
Okay, that's fair. So that's a direct. I mean, I can respect that he said that directly. You don't agree that? I mean, there is something to what he's saying, like the ability for. I know Nathan said he doesn't care if it's palatable for this conversation, but for Adam's point, I still agree. It's hard. It's hard. It's like, what's the point of me knowing stuff when I live with retards who don't care? Like, unless I can, like, give it to them in fuzzy pop form or something. Like, because other than that, I'm basically alone.
Audience. So we're not here to educate the audience, as they will have you believe later in the conversation when I try to point out, why it's important. It's not about educating the audience anymore. It's about being a smug asshole.
Because he's saying that's not going. Well, if he's telling you that what he's perceiving you to do wouldn't convince someone, then what you just said is obviously not true, because that's not his intention based on what he said. Why would you? Right. So try again.
Well, see, our conversation does not happen in a vacuum. This is something that's developed over several days. Right.
Okay.
Now, I have been told that the reason that we have these conversations is to educate an audience. Now, the knowledge that you have makes you smug to know this. It's insulting at this point.
Well, what did you do? Now, I'm not saying you did anything. How did this happen? I guess I wasn't here 2 days ago. Well, like, what's the problem?
Neither was I. It was like they got together and had some back chats about Nathan repeating statements and not being able to back
there was no back
and
chat.
somehow they blamed me
there was
for
no
it.
Back
and
chats.
They blame me for it. Now they attack me for it.
No back chat. Stop that.
So what was
That's
it?
Exactly what happened. Was Nathan there? And I showed up. Y'all wasn't expecting me to show up. And then that's when it popped off. Y'all were talking about Nathan while he was gone.
Outrageous.
We're talking about Nathan all the time. That's the best time to do it. What are you talking about?
Hells yeah. What?
Referring to
we should talk Nathan soon as he exits.
The chat that John's referring to took place after QE Live. There was all kinds of people there. So there's no special secret back chat went on.
He's talking about yesterday, Brian, when I came in and tried to explain to you that he's getting in the way of helping Nathan go a little further in his explaining things so the audience grasped it. He thought we were making a big thing and we were talking about him. Don't pat yourself on the back, Refracted. Nobody's talking about you.
No, I was very directly talking to you, John, yesterday. I was very direct to you.
No, not at first. Not until I got there. Like, y'all were already talking about how Nathan
I was talking about the conversation me and Adam and others had in the after show QE. Yeah.
Right, and Nathan is being detrimental because he can't describe something and it's perceived as chanting.
Well, there's no point Nathan making claims and then not being able to support them. That makes not just him look bad, but everyone else. And I'm sure Nathan would agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you disagree with that? Do you think Nathan should be making claims and not being able to back them up?
No. But what I said,
so what's your problem then?
Was if Nathan is making claims and can't back them up, then that's not useful. That is chanting. Is what I said. But I didn't accept that he wasn't able to back them up just because you said it.
No, I showed yesterday that Nathan couldn't back up. When I asked him to prove to me a mile was a horizontal, was a straight line measurement, he wasn't able to succinctly do it. I proved that yesterday on the show.
A mile can be considered a straight line measurement, right? No?
Well, a mile is. In its infancy, it's a straight line horizontal in its infancy. No, you can curve it.
Your point was pushing them to make it clear for the audience why, right? Because we were having this conversation where you can't just say this bombastic like statement and then not really go into the particulars, right? That conversation we were having.
Go on, sorry.
No, that was it. Yeah.
But now that I went into the particulars, you see how someone is treated when they do.
Now it's
unimportant.
John. That's different, John. Adam pointed out the problem with you. No, Adam.
Wait. I want to hear.
What you did, John. Just 1 second here. What you did, John, is you tried to hijack the point I originally made that you had a little issue with, right? and try and repurpose it to somehow be your point. That's what you did. And then act as if you had a point, right? When the truth is that the way you went about it and the way I went about it, right, was completely different. What you did was completely impractical to the average layman and unusable. What I did and what I pointed out was very practical to the average layman. That's what Adam was pointing out.
That's
So you
what
didn't
you're
make any
claiming.
point different from what I made. You didn't make any point different from what I made. You just made it harder to understand. That's what you did, John.
I didn't make any point different than from what you made.
No, your point was actually
That's what he said. That's what he said.
That's
what he said. He just said y'all had the same point, and I guess that's why it looks like y'all have the same point today, because you do. So I guess now the problem is Brian is claiming you made the point harder than it had to be, and you had the problem all along. What's your response to that?
Hold on. Brian made the point harder, much harder.
Okay. So my
point is that they don't have any way to reference reality, so there's no way for them to even describe to you this information.
I understand what you're saying, but as soon as you say that, you have to explain that to someone who's like, I know you're not telling me I don't know what a mile is, motherfucker. Of course we live on the road and it has something to do with something.
I just went through it, but that's what we just went through.
No, but I guess Brian's point was you can't just say it without going through it. We went through it just now, but if you were saying it in jest.
Oh, God damn. Well, then can we not fucking keep it in a vacuum then and let's move on?
Yes, you do have to keep it in a vacuum. That's the point, because as soon as you bring that point up, you are no longer making Brian's point. You go off to a separate point, derivation of unit, like I said, instead of not having parallel horizontals. Something which
so not saying the same thing, Eli.
No, I'm saying.
I'm sorry. Brian said
is changing the direction of the conversation, making the point that was being made moot. It's no longer the topic of conversation. You've introduced a new one, which is, like I say, derivation of the unit, as opposed to what Brian was pointing out, which is you cannot have parallel horizontals on a ball. That's the point where it's not helpful. It's not conducive.
You can't have a single horizontal on a ball, let alone multiple.
That's my point from the start.
No, yours is about two.
Time out. Let me ask a question before you argue. The question I'm asking is a point of clarity.
Eli, you're making this.
No,
Eli,
not both
it's hard
of you.
enough with just two of them.
You're being distracted. You're being distracted.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm trying to ask the question.
That is not acceptable, John. I just made the point, and you want to go on to and bait Brian with arguing about whether there's one horror. Listen to the critique that's being given. It's got nothing to do with the subjects. It's about applying a basic destruction of the argument, which is fun sometimes, but actually can be considered rude by Brian when he's trying to outlay one point, and what we have to do is take it to the derivation of the unit. That's not helpful to the listener. Yeah, it's only helpful to our egos. Oh, look how quickly I demolished that.
I'm on the lower understanding of the particulars.
Eli.
So I am the layman. I'm trying to give you the layman perspective. Y'all aren't letting that happen. I am the layman. I'm trying to tell y'all what I'm hearing, and you think that's the least important, Nathan? Because I'm the one that understands this the least.
Yeah, we just want to.
No, I just want to say, because what I heard Adam say is that you made a point that John agrees with, except for the fact he made it moot. Is that not what you said in full summary?
Yes.
All right. So, as a layman, you don't need to talk anymore. I want to understand why John's doing that.
1 second. John said you can't even have one horizontal on the sphere. And then he said, Brian, My whole point was, John, is that those two straight lines that would be 90 degrees, the two lines coming from the center of the sphere, none of them will be horizontal. But in reality, those two lines will be horizontal and they will be parallel to each other. Because horizontal can only exist, right, in reality over a horizontal plane of reference. It cannot exist on a sphere. So you're saying, John, you can't even have one horizontal drawing is bullshit, right? Because that's you trying to hijack my point again, right? You tried to hijack my point and make it your point several times because you don't actually have a point. You don't actually have a point.
I do.
No, you don't.
I do have a point.
And even when I asked you, are you inferring that horizontal and vertical within your point? You couldn't even give me a straight yes or no on that because you don't have honesty in your heart, John. Your heart is full of pride.
But the question to John is, based on what we're saying, and if this is the reality of the conversation, is what Adam's saying and what Adam said and what I summarized, can you see that being true? If not, explain why it's not true. Explain how you didn't agree with his point and make it moot at the same time to explain your point.
Well, see, the horizontal that you will develop from the vertical and their intrinsic links, right? You have to have the first horizontal before you can create the second horizontal. Horizontal is not the first.
With the horizontal. No, it starts with the horizontal, the horizon. That's what it starts with.
Now, I realize that you all have had plenty of conversations about me, but I sit here with my mic closed. Don't interrupt me while I try to answer Eli's question.
You were incorrect there. I was just giving you back a bit what you get out of. You were incorrect there, John. You create the vertical off the horizontal.
I'm not going to
just let him get his thoughts together. Just let him get his thoughts together. You're the first one that understands that your thoughts get jumbled up if someone's talking and then you might say something that's less accurate than you originally want. Just let him say everything and then respond to that. Even I hate to sound like a baller who's like, let me just get. But in this situation, it's actually relevant that you let him say everything so that you can then respond, because he can't get his thoughts out. I can hear it. He's getting frustrated, just like you do. We all do. Let him say what he right or wrong. Let him say what he's going to say.
Right. They want to describe to us vertical, horizontal, zeniths, but all of these concepts require Earth to be flat. And we go through that every day.
Well, if you remember, the conversation wasn't every day. I said every now and again, if Nathan
Neil, I just begged Brian to not interrupt his train of thought.
Eli and Neil, can you shut your pie holes? Go ahead, John.
Shut up, all these. Hey, Eli, relax. All right? It started with me, the conversation. It started with me, so I'm clearing it up. What I said was it would be nice if Nathan would break it down every now and then, not every single time he says Earth is measured flat.
Yeah, your initial shit stirring is not relevant now. Eli's doing a grand job of mediating this. Keep it up, Eli. It's good. Your viewpoint's the one that matters. That's why I've interjected. It's all that matters.
I fundamentally disagree. I think Eli's opinion is the least important here.
Okay.
Well, you're wrong because I don't have an opinion. I'm asking for clarity on something that Adam said.
Well, everyone just be quiet and let John speak.
Yeah, John.
Right. When Adam said that I agree with him, but then I make his point moot, is to say that, well, yeah, that's true, but the reason it's true is you can't have the first horizontal to begin with. I'm bringing it back to an epistemic
point before you came in and subjected it to a complete right angle to make a new point. Had he finished it? Or were you just jumping in, going, oh, yeah, but I can reduce the argument down to this. I can go another layer lower. You can't even have that. That's what I heard. That's what I think is fundamentally going off. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's not directly at you. We are all guilty of it. But as I'm saying, doing that and reducing the argument down when there is a decent argument on the table that stands perfectly well, yeah, we are not helping the audience. We're not educating the audience. If all we end up doing is it's a flat earth measurement or you can't have miles, they're mine. Yeah.
Therefore, what Brian did to Nathan just earlier, right before that, was wrong.
No, I corrected Nathan on something.
Yeah, bad Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
Bad Brian as well. Bad Brian. Brian, bad John.
Yeah, John, you tried to hijack my point. My initial point was, and everyone knows it, that you can't have horizontal nor vertical on the sphere. And I've stated this throughout this whole conversation. And I was very specific about those orientations not existing, and that being the major problem we have. Now you've come around and trying to tell me you can't even have one horizontal, Brian. Like, that was my initial point. So that means that you don't have a point. What you're looking for is something that you can make into your point. I'm not hearing anything from you that I don't already know.
Are you saying he's committing a fallacy, aka he is nitpicking?
No, objection.
Okay.
Elijah, since you're being the moderator to this and your understanding, was his statement about two horizontal tangent planes, or was it about having one
I never said
horizontal
tangents at all.
Okay. Was it about
what I heard him say when I came in, I heard Divergent Zenith, I heard his point being, in my summary of it, is that you can't have horizontals that aren't horizontal to each other. You can't have that in reality.
Yeah,
right. And I don't disagree with that. I do not.
What I said.
But the initial horizontal.
What I said initially, before you just tried to make it into something I didn't say, which you're constantly doing, was that if I create a tangent to the surface of a sphere, and then I take a step forward and create another tangent to the surface of a sphere, those two tangents will not be parallel to each other. Yet in reality, it doesn't matter what elevation differences between those two straight lines. In reality, those two straight lines will be horizontal and they will be parallel. Right? Meaning that you cannot have horizontal, and horizontal does not exist within that paradigm. And consequently, neither does vertical. Right? That was what my point was. And you jumped on the fact that I initially said, if I move 1 foot forward, right, because I used the term foot, which would be invoking a measurement, and you jumped on that jump.
Yeah,
right. Just like
because you were saying
Nathan.
You don't. What part of under your foot is the point? Like it did. This is going exactly how Brian is saying it went. It sounds
right.
Like.
Okay.
Instead of accepting his point, which was fine, you're like, but you can't have a foot on a sphere. But he's already making the point that you can't have any diverging parallels on a sphere, regardless. Like it's so.
Right. Hold on.
Like you're undermining his point to tell him something he already knows.
Right. And so Nathan, when he was responding to someone just previous to that, and Brian jumped in with the hyperspecificity to say, you didn't say horizontal, but Nathan did say horizontal. It's the same problem, isn't it?
No, which Adam said, which Adam did say, we all do it. Yeah. And we got to be honest about that, because we kind of do.
This is the point where, as a gentleman, you go, yeah, maybe I did. Sorry, Brian. And we all move on.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with apologizing, but I want...
1 second, John. One second, John, I'll give the truth. When I did that, Nathan conceded, you're right, I should have used the term horizontal. And when you pointed out, John, that I used the term foot, which was not conducive with the surface of a sphere, I conceded to that. What's your problem?
He did.
Thanks, Eli.
Yes, he did.
Right. And it can come off dickish, can it?
Well,
I
an
would
apology,
say,
no. An
I would
apology
say
should
what comes
never
off
come
dish
off
is when
ticket.
somebody is not willing to concede and somebody is trying to hijack other people's points and they're trying to pretend they're not. That and picking down people's backs and telling them it's raining. I would say that's coming off the dickish now, John.
But now
What
I
it sounds
do.
like, what it sounds like is this. It sounds like you'll accept what Adam laid out is happening, Brian, if John will admit he did it to you. And John will admit he did it to you if you can admit you did it to Nathan. That's how. Come on.
No,
guys.
this is not about
somebody
that.
has to be
not
the.
about that, Eli. It's not about that, Eli.
But
This
somebody
is
has to go first, though.
No,
In reality,
this is about something
one
else,
of you
Eli.
do
This is
have to
about
go
something
I
first.
else,
will.
Eli.
I will.
Eli,
I will.
Eli, I
My
need to
point.
interject here because there's a point of differentiation. No, right. So, and this is my point. When, and I feel I'm not having a big go at you, but this is the summary. Yeah. When Refracted interjected on Brian, like I said, it threw a curve and changed the tone and completely derailed the point Brian was making. When Brian waited for Nathan to virtually finish and said you need horizontal in that, he was adding the caveat to a good explanation, a word that was missed. Hyper-specificity, something we pride ourselves on, right? But as I said, that make that distinction between the two interjections. It's not fair to equate them.
He got to get his point out. He got his point out. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but it wasn't. But when it came to Nathan, it wasn't derailed. When it came to you, it was the whole show.
It wasn't derailed. It was only when he wanted to deny that there is no horizontal on a sphere.
I mean, because he's responding to your derailment, though. What do you want him to not? He just ignore you? Like, what else is he supposed to do? He already conceded. Right. Okay, yeah, I get you. The foot, blah blah blah. He did concede that. So what else do you want him to do? He has to keep responding. He's not going to stop responding to you.
What I want, John,
but it was his point that you were coming into. You were supposed to relinquish it when he conceded that, because he had his own point that he was on, and unless there was something wrong with it fundamentally, you should have let it ride.
I did let it ride. He got to the end of his point. Everybody can reiterate his point. But there is something further to that, and a basics and an epistemology of the understanding that we have. And I did take it to that. No, God,
no, that's not fair. What you just said is not true. But that was the point of the what's going off this afternoon. You didn't let him get to the end, so it's not fair to start your summary with a falsehood. So start again without the false statement that the reason we're all here is me letting him get to the end, because that didn't happen. The point was derailed.
Yeah, it was.
No, the point was not derailed. He got to the end of the point and it was made moot. He got to the end of the point and it was made moot because I pointed out that the epistemology to make the point, they don't have that.
What's that?
Yeah, which is you admitting that you derailed his point.
1 second.
It's not derailed.
That you said they don't have that. What is that? Define that, please, John.
They don't have that epistemology. That means the convention of understanding or knowledge that they can say zenith, vertical, horizontal. They don't have those things.
But hang on,
to be able to describe.
You stopped me on the word foot. You didn't stop me on those other things because that was my point. They don't have these orientations. They don't have any of this. That was my point. And you stopped me on because I used the word foot. Because I said if I take a step forward, a foot. You stopped me on the use of the word foot because that would invoke a horizontal straight line measurement. That's what you stopped me on.
But that was after you'd already made your point, which your point was not about a foot, was it?
No, it wasn't. And this is funny you're saying that because my point was about the fact that they don't have the orientations that do exist in reality, making their paradigm completely inane.
Which I never disagreed with.
No, but you did. You jumped on the point of the foot. As Adam pointed out, What my specificity, me being hyper-specific with Nathan, was adding to Nathan's point. You didn't add to my point, you took to derail it.
Yes, I did. Yes,
No,
I
you
did.
didn't.
I
You didn't add to my
pointed out
point.
that
But
the
what you said was,
epistemology.
what you said was to undermine me, not to add to the point.
No, I added to the point because I pointed out that the epistemology for this, as Adam calls it, you know, how you derive the units, right? They don't even have that.
Can you add to a point that you make moot because you said you made it moot with what you said? So
Right.
how is that adding to it? Because with Nathan,
because the knowledge
hold on. Let's first talk about if Brian made Nathan's point moot by pointing out the epistemology. Did he do that?
No.
Well, no, but I'll explain to you.
So that's the distinction. Before the explanation, that's the distinction that Adam wants you to address. He doesn't want you to talk about anything else.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do that to you. The way in which we communicate as people is to take concepts, right, and apply them to reality, right? And words come out and we understand each other, right?
Yes.
Right. This is fundamental. Now, it does moot everything in the room because they don't have that. They don't have the means in which to do that. I'm not taking away from Brian's point. It's the foundation of Brian's point. It's not taking away from it.
Totally changes Brian's point.
But it is mooting his point. I'm sorry it does that, but it is, I think, a bigger point to make still.
Lovely. So every time you think it is, then any kind of poor form is excusable.
It was his form. I used to do it.
I'm on about your poor form. Well, yeah.
It was his poor form. I used to do it to reflect it back to him.
Doesn't feel like that, mate. And it doesn't feel like you're sensing the room even that, yeah, people are politely pointing out your bad behavior, your poor form, but you're not even being a gentleman enough to just recognize it, apologize for it and move on. You want to just keep pretending like I've misconstrued the situation.
Hence why I was going to say it sounds non sequitur that everything you brought up has nothing to do with the fact that Adam said that there's a distinction here between what happened between Brian and Adam and you and Brian. And then you confirmed that there is a distinction, but you're not willing to unpack that.
Yes,
at the very least, touch the surface of it.
There is a distinction in information, but the form is there. Do you understand? The form in which I gave the information out is the same, but the information is not the same.
Jolly good. After 2 hours of live streaming, we're going to round out at this point, so this may continue in the after show. We'll find out shortly. But with that, I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned. This will be an after show to follow. This is where we bid all of you good people watching live farewell. So another massive thank you to Discord and G+. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.